As the warm morning sun rolled gently over the rolling hills of the Italian countryside, a grand Roman villa slowly emerged from the soft golden haze, its bright stucco walls glowing like warm ivory and its red terracotta roof tiles shining as though someone had polished each one by hand just moments earlier. Servants moved quietly along the gravel paths lined with trimmed hedges, carrying baskets of fresh figs, bundles of herbs tied with twine, and pitchers of cool water drawn from the deep stone well. Birds darted from cypress tree to cypress tree, filling the crisp air with cheerful trills that mingled playfully with the distant chatter of workers already beginning their day in the fields. Even from a distance, the villa seemed to hum with gentle life, like a peaceful heart beating steadily within the landscape of ancient Rome. As guests stepped through the grand entrance, they found themselves in the atrium, a central courtyard open to the sky where sunlight streamed through the rectangular opening and sparkled against the shallow pool below. The smooth marble floor reflected the shifting light like a shimmering mosaic of tiny suns, while painted frescoes stretched across the walls depicting Roman gods draped in flowing robes, heroic battles, and mythical sea creatures swirling among curling waves of deep blue pigment. Servants glided through the space with practiced ease, adjusting the oil lamps, straightening cushions, and offering trays of grapes and honey-soaked pastries to anyone who lingered near the cushioned benches. The scent of burning incense drifted lazily upward, creating a thin ribbon of smoke that curled into the open sky. Moving deeper into the villa, the atmosphere shifted into something softer and more intimate. The triclinium, or dining room, was arranged with low couches surrounding polished tables carved from dark wood, each surface decorated with bowls of olives, dates, spiced nuts, and brightly colored ceramic dishes painted with flowers and geometric patterns. In the corner, a musician plucked gently at a small harp, filling the room with delicate notes that seemed to flutter like hummingbirds among the guests. Sunlight filtered in through the fine linen curtains, casting graceful shadows that danced lightly across the floor as servants prepared the midday feast. Children peeked inside and giggled before running off to play, the cool stone walls echoing their footsteps with a soft rhythm. Outside, the villa's gardens stretched out in peaceful symmetry. Rows of rose bushes bloomed in shades of soft pink and deep crimson, their petals glowing beneath the sunlight like tiny flames. Fountains trickled gently into carved stone basins where frogs perched on the edges, blinking lazily as dragonflies skimmed across the water's surface. Tall fruit trees spread their branches to offer clusters of glistening pomegranates and heavy figs that nearly brushed the ground. Garden workers knelt beside neatly arranged herb beds, gathering sprigs of mint, basil, and thyme that would soon flavor stews simmering in the villa's bustling kitchen. The sweet scent of flowers mingled with the earthy smell of freshly turned soil, creating an aroma that felt as comforting as a warm embrace. Behind the main house, the Villa Rustica, the working section of the estate, buzzed with steady activity. Farmhands moved between the stables and granaries, guiding strong horses, feeding bleating goats, and checking on the sheep whose wool would be spun into soft fabric. Large clay jars filled with freshly pressed olive oil stood in the shade, their smooth surfaces warm to the touch. Nearby, women chatted cheerfully as they washed clothes in basins, scrubbing and rinsing before hanging bright fabrics on long wooden poles to dry in the sun. Chickens clucked and fluttered along the pathways, scattering whenever a servant hurried past with a basket or a jug. Life here followed a rhythm as old as Rome itself, steady, purposeful, and deeply rooted in the land. Inside the private family rooms, life unfolded in quieter, gentler moments. Children studied with their tutors, practicing grammar and reading aloud stories of heroes and gods while nibbling on fruit slices arranged neatly on small trays. Mothers tended to household accounts, examining scrolls filled with neat lines of ink that tracked grain harvests, wine production, and expenses for the bustling villa. Fathers prepared for visits to the town forum, smoothing their tunics and adjusting the folds of their togas as they discussed politics or trade with trusted friends. Painted lamps glowed softly even during the day, adding warm pools of golden light that softened the crisp edges of the intricate mosaic floors beneath their feet. As the morning grew warmer, the baths became the villa's lively social center. Guests and family members slipped into the bright rooms filled with steam rising from heated pools, their laughter echoing off walls painted with murals of dolphins, seashells, and glittering waves. Some relaxed on stone benches warmed by the sun, chatting peacefully about the weather, recent festivals, or gossip from the nearby town. Others dipped into the cool plunge pool after a long soak, gasping with surprise as the chilled water wrapped around them like a brisk mountain breeze. The baths weren't just for cleaning, they were for relaxing, connecting, and savoring the luxurious comfort that the villa offered. Near midday, the villa's kitchen erupted into a flurry of delightful chaos. The air swirled with fragrant steam rising from pots of lentil stew, sizzling platters of herbs and fish, and trays of cheese drizzled with fragrant olive oil. Cooks shouted instructions over the crackling of the fire, stirring large bronze pots with long wooden spoons, while servants hurried back and forth carrying plates, baskets of bread, and bowls of fruit. Dogs lingered hopefully near the kitchen door, tails wagging as they waited for scraps or a kind cook who might toss them a piece of leftover meat. The more the villa stirred with life, the more it felt like its own small world, a place where beauty, comfort, order, and nature blended into a single, harmonious rhythm. Every room, every corridor, every garden path told a different story of ancient Roman daily life, revealing a mix of elegance and hard work, luxury and routine, laughter and labor. Each moment felt woven together like the threads of a brightly dyed tapestry, forming a complete picture of what it meant to live not just in a house, but in a thriving Roman estate full of people, purpose, and ever-flowing energy. As the sun lowered toward the horizon and the warmth of afternoon softened into the gentler light of evening, the Colosseum transformed from a roaring arena into a quieter world filled with shadows, echoes, and stories lingering in the air like drifting dust. The remaining spectators wandered slowly out through wide stone passageways, brushing sand from their clothes and reliving the day's most exciting moments with animated gestures and breathless chatter. Vendors packed away baskets and jars, collecting leftover fruit and spilled grain as the last families drifted toward the busy streets outside. The great arena, which only hours earlier had shaken with thunderous cheers, now exhaled a deep, peaceful sigh. Inside the quieting Colosseum, long corridors glowed with the fading orange light of evening, creating long stripes across the stone floors. Servants swept the sandy arena, dragging wide brushes that left gentle patterns curling across the ground. The scent of dust, sweat, and old wood mingled with warm breezes drifting in from the open sky. Gladiators who had fought earlier limped through the passageways, leaning on one another, offering quiet jokes to hide their exhaustion. Some carried bandages around their arms or shoulders. Others pressed cloth bundles against bruises as they walked toward the training quarters to rest. In the gladiators' barracks, lanterns flickered softly, casting shadows that danced across the walls like restless spirits. The fighters lowered themselves onto wooden benches, wiping sand from their arms, running hands through their tangled hair, or stretching aching muscles. Trainers moved from person to person, checking injuries, offering salves that smelled of herbs and smoke, and muttering instructions for improvement. Even after a long day, discipline remained the heart of gladiator life. Every mistake was studied, every movement refined, every victory understood, even the small ones. Younger trainees watched the older fighters with a mixture of awe and determination. They whispered among themselves, replaying the dramatic moments they had seen, spinning dodges, raised shields, clashing blades, last-second escapes. They practiced those movements in slow, awkward bursts, their wooden swords cutting clumsy arcs through the warm lamplight. Their laughter rose now and then, light and clinking, breaking through the stillness of the evening like tiny sparks. Though they trained for a dangerous life, the barracks still held room for hope, friendship, and innocence. Beyond the arena and the training grounds, Rome's night settled over the city like a velvet blanket woven with the sounds of distant voices, clattering carts, and the bubbling water of fountains. Families crossing the forum talked excitedly about the day's events, waving their hands with dramatic flair as they reenacted the bravest moments. Children jumped and spun, pretending to be gladiators, though their wooden swords and wild swings earned only laughter rather than fear. Parents reminded them gently that real gladiator life was far harsher than the games suggested. But still, the children's imaginations soared, building legends out of the flickering memories of dust and sunlight. Inside wealthier households, scholars and storytellers gathered for evening gatherings called convivium. Over platters of figs, olives, and warm bread, they discussed the meaning of the games. Some argued that gladiators showed Roman strength and discipline. Others murmured that the fights were cruel, that no person should live or die for entertainment. These debates rose and fell like gentle waves voices weaving through the night as Rome tried to balance its love for spectacle with its sense of honor and order. Meanwhile, beneath the Colosseum, the world of tunnels called the Hypogeum hummed with quiet activity even after the crowds had departed. Workers cleaned animal cages, stacking leftover hay into neat piles. Torches crackled along the walls, revealing ropes, pulleys, and wooden platforms used to lift animals and stage sets through secret trapdoors into the arena. The underground felt like a hidden city, narrow, winding, full of mysteries. Echoes bounced between chambers, and water dripped steadily from stone arches worn smooth by years of footsteps. Though dark and cramped, the tunnels played a vital role in every show, holding the secrets that made the arena come alive. Farther away, near the edges of Rome, animal keepers guided lions, leopards, and bears back to their enclosures. The animals padded across the ground silently, their golden eyes gleaming in the torchlight. Some growled low and soft, deep as a distant drum. Others moved calmly, tails switching like slow, lazy pendulums. The keepers whispered soothing words, offering chunks of meat or water as they walked. These men knew that each creature carried both danger and beauty, forces that demanded respect more than fear. Back in the barracks, night deepened. Gladiators finished their meals, bowls of barley stew, bread dipped into olive oil, slices of cheese shared among friends. Laughter warmed the air for a moment as someone cracked a joke about a clumsy stumble during training last week. Then quiet settled again, peaceful but heavy. Men lay on their bunks, hands folded behind their heads, eyes drifting toward the wooden ceiling as exhaustion seeped into their bones. Some whispered short prayers to their household gods. Others thought about family far away, or the choices that had brought them here, or the uncertain roads that lay ahead. But even in this hard life, tiny sparks of hope flickered. A gladiator who won enough victories might earn the wooden sword of freedom, Rudy's a simple object that carried more meaning than gold. Many fighters dreamed of that moment, imagining the cheer of the crowd, the proud nod of the editor, and the feel of cool wood resting in their hands like a promise. Those dreams drifted through the barracks like soft, invisible threads connecting one weary heart to another. Above the Colosseum, the moon rose slowly, casting pale silver light across the arches and columns. The giant stones seemed to glow, turning the whole structure into a quiet guardian watching over the city. Owls perched along the topmost edges, blinking slowly as they studied the world below. The faint scent of sand and dust still clung to the night air, reminding anyone who wandered nearby of the spectacle that had filled the arena that day. As torches dimmed and conversations faded, Rome slipped fully into nighttime stillness. The Colosseum rested, the gladiators rested, the workers rested, even the animals rested. And yet, somewhere deep within the sleeping city, excitement stirred quietly. Because everyone knew that when tomorrow's sun climbed once again above the rooftops, the grand arena would awaken, the crowds would gather. The sand would be raked smooth, the drums would beat, and new stories, brave, fierce, breathtaking stories would rise beneath the ancient stone arches, echoing through Rome like living fire. In this way, day after day, the Colosseum shaped not only the rhythm of entertainment but the rhythm of Roman life itself. It stood as a symbol of ambition, power, skill, courage, struggle, and spectacle, an enormous stage where heroes could rise, villains could fall, and ordinary people could witness the unforgettable. And the gladiators, with all their strength and determination, carried their stories across the sand, reminding Rome that even in the harshest places, courage could burn brighter than the torchlight that guarded the night.